This week, this is a perfect B-Comp week because James Gunn finally announced...
I wore the wrong shirt.
No, you didn't. James Gunn finally announced the plan for DC. Now, when you and I were last hanging out, we were talking about Marvel versus DC. Who's going to come out on top this year?
Yeah. Well, we still have a year to wait. Keep that in mind.
We still do. Now, James Gunn is not talking about 2023. He said,
like, well,
these are the things that are already happening. Here's the passing
of the torch kind of thing.
I'm going to tell you, my first reaction to James Gunn's announcement was a mild and mediocre one. And we're going to break down the things. It felt a little convoluted to me, a little messy. However, I watched it a second time, had a little bit more hope, saw a little bit more of the strategy behind the things that he's doing.
Yeah.
What were your initial thoughts when you watched it before we start breaking it down?
I didn't even know a video had dropped. I was just reading all the reports as it was like coming in. I'm like, oh, this. I'm like, okay, I'm down with that. It seemed to me initially, I'm like, someone's really trying to get their 80s comic books like value up, because I'm like, Booster Gold, Creature Commandos, what are you doing? And then I watched the video this morning. I'm like, oh, okay, I see. He's trying to like allay the fears that a lot of fans have, with Cavill leaving and all of that stuff. And I think he's trying to get out in front, like, hey, I'm the new Feige, essentially. We've got, everything's in good hands. Here we go. You know?
Do you feel like it did that job? Do you think like the audience was like, oh, this is it. Thank God.
I think there's always going to be a contingent of audience that are going to buy into it no matter what. And also a contingent of audience that is going to be like, F this shit. No, I think no matter what, for me as a fan, I'm glad to see DC has a path moving forward. Okay. Whether this is the right path or whether I like all the projects, that remains to be seen. I mean, the same thing with Marvel, though. I'm like, I don't know about that, but they surprised me with a lot of the projects they've done.
Yeah. I mean, Marvel's had a little bit of a sloppy
fourth
phase
season. Fourth phase has been a little bit of rocky.
Yeah,
there's been some really good stuff and some not so good.
Well, we're going to take a look at the actual video for those of you guys that did not get a chance to see it.
Hey, everybody, I'm James Gunn.
Hold on.
James Gunn. Markwith, I believe is my buddy Josh. He said, I'm surprised how much James Gunn is writing for, too. Yeah, James Gunn is writing a ton of that. And it is curious that he didn't mention Peacemaker 2 in any of this either.
Well, I believe that's being folded into Waller.
Yeah, probably.
Which makes sense.
Well, because originally that was announced before he became like the co-CEO of DC. Originally, he was like, we're doing Peacemaker 2. I'm writing and directing every single episode.
Got it.
I wonder if you're right. Maybe that did get folded
into
Waller.
Did he, and this is the sidebar.
Well, there we go.
Did he direct the new Flash movie?
No. The guy who directed it it's the guy who directed It.
Okay.
Yeah. Which every report I have read, and this goes back to like months before, like that movie is supposed to be gangbusters, badass, awesome. Like it is like it's arguably going to be one of the best movies ever, like superhero movies. And it's funny, like even test audiences that were like concerned about Ezra Miller, like they're like, what about the Ezra Miller of it all? Because this is when when Ezra was in all that real weird shit. Most audiences just like, yeah, I don't really give a shit. I don't care.
But is he sticking around?
It's going to depend on how they get through treatment. That's what DC said. Basically, how Ezra does through treatment. If they come out and like are genuinely like, I'm apologetic, I effed up, I'm on the road to like being good about all this. That's what's going to determine if they genuinely are trying to be a better person.
Okay. Well, before we get too far into this dive,
we're not even into the first thing.
Into the first thing. Before we get too far into it, let's watch James Gunn do this wonderful announcement video. Here we go.
I'm the co-CEO of DC Studios.
Sure.
So as many of you know, DC has been disconnected in film and television for a long time. And it's one of our jobs.
Understatement.
You think?
Understatement.
And Peters is to come in and make sure the DCEU is connected in film, television, gaming, and animation. That the characters are consistent, played by the same actors, and it works within one story. And if something is outside of that, like Matt Reeves' Batman or Todd Phillips' Joker or Teen Titans Go, that it is clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds. Outside of
I'm really excited about that. Like that, they're just like, hey, look, we're going to acknowledge this exists. This is an Elseworlds, which they use in the comics. Essentially, it's their version of What If. What if Batman was, around for, Jack the Ripper, and it's Gotham by Gaslight, or whatever. I actually really like this idea because it's able to keep all of the stories that have been around without just throwing it away. It's what Marvel did basically now that they've they've acknowledged that, hey, the Tobey Maguire films are canon within the Marvel universe. They're just a different universe.
Got it.
And that's what I like what they're doing here.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say the same thing. There's another show, which we're going to talk about today, which is Gotham Knights that's coming out this year.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's got to be a part of the Elseworld.
Yes, 100% it is.
Experience.
Because in the Gotham Knights, I believe Batman's dead in that one, right?
Yes.
And I think that that'll just be like, not the Arrowverse, but it'll be part of all of that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going.
Do you think?
Of the mainstream DCU continuity. Now, Peter and I have gotten pretty lucky in terms of the 4 projects that are coming out over the next year. First, we have Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Shazam has always been off kind of in his own part of the DCU, so he connects.
What? No.
It's like, you know what?
Don't care. I've seen the new trailer. I continue to not care.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be fine. The first one was fun. I actually enjoyed the first one.
Sure.
For a B movie, I'm like when I mean that is like not like a B movie, but just like a solid B. Like that was a solid B. Nothing great, nothing bad. It wasn't offensive. I still have yet to watch Black Adam because I've heard that is a solid right down the middle C.
Black Adam is a solid C. My one thing about Shazam, I couldn't get past the dialogue. The dialogue really felt like a first draft that they made into a multi-million-dollar movie.
I was gonna say it sounds like the Sex and the City sequel that they just did.
Yes.
Well, my problem was always the costume. Like the costume, it looked like he got that. Like, really? There's padded muscle in there.
Yeah.
It looks like something you'd get at the Halloween Town or something like that for a little kid.
I don't see what they're expanding with this movie. I don't see what the threat of these other characters. And even as like a standalone experience, they're gods, they're more powerful.
I like the family dynamic of it. I always like when they have been able to hey, here are a bunch of superheroes. Let's make them human, and being human is like having a family. You know what I mean? It's one of the things I always loved about Superman when they had Jonathan Kent as his son.
Yes,
I love that stuff. And when he was, it's like they're kind of getting back into it. Him raising a teenager now, but I loved it when he was like a kid. Like, let's see how kids deal with all of this.
Sure.
But anyway.
Shazam! Fear of the Gods. Sorry to go on that title. I just have feelings about it.
Acts very well. That moves directly into The Flash, a fantastic movie that I really love. That resets the entire DC universe. Then to move into Blue Beetle, a fantastic film about a kid who's a marvelous part of the DCU, and then into Aquaman 2, which leads directly into our next few projects, which I'm going to tell you about now. So, Peter and I, along with a group of very talented writers, have started to map out an 8 to 10 year plan of what DC Studios will be in film, television, and gaming. This first chapter is called Gods and Monsters. Now, what I'm about to tell you, is a part of the first chapter. It's not the entire first chapter. The first project is Creature Commandos. Creature Commandos is an animated series. I've written all the episodes.
Is that what it is?
No, it's not. It's not.
Oh my God. You scared me because I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm interested now.
It's essentially, it's a bunch of commando, Frankenstein's, a werewolf, etc., and they're all fighting Nazis in World War II. So it's essentially Hellboy in a weird, if you think about it. Predates Hellboy, obviously, but it has a little bit of that kind of mythology or kind of thing. It's funny, people ask me, why do I have so many comics? Because, obviously I've been collecting. It's because I also don't throw any of them out. And I'm going to point out something. I'm going to kick
That's fair.
Well, because here's the thing. The one time now it's the second time I've thrown books out. I'm like, oh, this is never going to get made into a show or a movie. This is a worthless comic. Get rid of it. The first time that happened was with this book called Sunfire and Big Hero 6, which, as you know, Big Hero 6 became a thing.
Big Hero 6.
The second one is Creature Commandos. I have the miniseries I don't think I have it anymore. And of course I threw it out like an idiot. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And this is why I don't throw comics out anymore, because you never know what property is going to get turned into a book or a series or a video game or a TV show.
And you've got to have the book for it.
Son of a
bitch. Do you know, this feels like it's a deep cut.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. This is, I mean, like there was like a few, I think it was like weird War Tales or something where they made their first appearance. They had a limited series. This is the one I had. It was in 2000. It was like 8 issues. But other than that, they've made it like appearances here and there, but it's mostly Frankenstein, Agent of Shade. Like it's this Frankenstein monster that has the monster Frankenstein.
Frankenstein's the main guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
and it's interesting because they did say that they want to make sure whoever they cast in the voice is someone who can play the character as an actor later on, or in live action.
One thing that I was like very interested in their strategy. Their attempt to make everything more cohesive is really by not spreading stuff out so much and having the same actor play the animated person.
Yes, Mike, it is.
Yeah. Is that Mike Shaw?
I don't know. Maybe.
Is that maybe a yes?
Maybe. He's going to sign off right now because I called him out.
No, I mean, no, it's not. What's up?
Yeah, all of these are supposed to take place in the same universe. In fact, he even goes on, like we'll get to it in a second, but he talks about Swamp Thing. It's like, this does not feel like it should fit in this universe, but I guarantee it will all fit together. Like, and honestly, that's how comics are. Like, you have magic and you have science and you have wizards and you have like science gods and you have all this stuff and it all fits together.
It all gels together.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going.
Because we're going to have characters move into animation, out of animation,
Love that.
usually having the same actor play their voice as who plays them in live action. The next project up is Waller. This is a story of Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis. Viola Davis is going to team up with members of Team
Peacemaker.
So, according to chat, specifically Jay Markwith, they said that this is supposed to take place between season 1 and 2 of Peacemaker. So it is not being folded over. It's sort of like a bridge.
Interesting.
To season 2.
Now, this to me, when I first watched it, and then again when I watched it again, was the first thing where I was like, okay, I'm starting to see the cohesive strategy of how they're tying the things up that exist before transitioning into the new phase. Yeah. Waller is great. People love Viola Davis.
Yep. Well, it's funny because we already kind of saw this in the comics in a weird way. There was in back 2011, DC Comics did a thing called Flashpoint, and this led into what was called the New 52. Now, the problem is like they wanted to reset all the books. They wanted to like, hey, here's a fresh start. Here's issue number 1. You can pick it up and not worry about any of the continuity for most of the books. Some of the books, though, they're like, hey, I don't want, like, because I think it was Jeff Johns and Jim Lee who were kind of really spearheading a lot of this. Like, I don't want to throw that continuity out the window. So, like, whereas Superman reset, Batman did not. Green Lantern did not.
And did Waller not?
I'm sure. I don't remember, but I'm just saying, like, you see this now. It's like they're going to use the Flash movie to kind of like reset things, but there's certain things that are going to stay the same. It's like, hey, there's going to be slight shifts and changes here and there, but the things we really like that are working, we're going to keep them.
Great.
Keep them on the rails.
Because Peacemaker's working.
Well, and also James Gunn wrote and directed most of it. It's like, why would he like, oh, I'm going to throw that out now. I know I did this whole thing and I've got a season 2 down the road. Why would I throw all that out? You know?
And I think that Peacemaker is a really great example of them using a character that is a very deep cut that the general audience knows nothing about.
I was all about Peacemaker for that reason, like using characters like Vigilante and all that.
Yeah.
Like, no one cares about that. Yes, you're going to have some diehard fan get real pissed off because, blah, blah, blah. They didn't do this thing that they did in issue 3. Who cares? Like, for the most part, the general audience, you're adapting it to a new audience. They don't care. As long as you get like the characters generally right, you're going to be okay.
Well, I think it also offers the same entry point that like hiring a no-name actor versus like a celebrity, which is they're a clean slate. I don't have to know the whole history of Superman to appreciate this. I don't have to know I don't have to argue with Batman fans online. We can all just learn about Peacemaker together at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and the other thing too is, especially when you talk about Batman and Superman, they don't need their origins redone.
In every movie?
I swear to God, if I see the pearls, hitting the goddamn dark alley one more fucking time,
you're going to.
I'm sure. I don't want to though. Like, but I'm glad. Well, the thing is, at least with this one, though, hey, we're just picking up now that he's got a son. Well, I'll save my rant for that when we get there.
Yeah.
Peacemaker.
And
this is a story that's been created by Crystal Henry, who did Watchmen, and Jeremy Carver, who created the Doom Patrol. It is a fantastic story.
Great team.
That's out of this world, and I can't wait for people to see it. Okay. Next up is the big one, the true beginning of the DCEU. This is called Superman Legacy. This is being written by me. I'm in the middle of it. I'm having a great time doing it. and Superman will be released into theaters.
Okay. I'm gonna
Go for it.
say something potentially controversial.
Please.
Are people still interested in Superman?
Yes. 100%.
Why? Well, and part of the reason why I say it is like when Superman came up, it existed at a time. Superheroes were new. He was the pop culture version and representation of America. America and America's place in the world and his vision and freedom and hope and all that stuff has changed a lot. So also, we've run into so many characters that are now spin-offs of Superman. Some that are better. Some that could take Superman.
Yep.
Why is Superman still a relevant figure?
It's funny you should ask that question because back in, I want to say it was 2001, maybe 2002, around there. It was around when The Authority, which they'll talk about in just a bit, come out. There's an issue of Action Comics. I think it was issue 775. It was written by Joe Kelly. Yeah. And the question is like, what's so funny about about true justice the American way? And it's like, why doesn't Superman kill? How is this archaic figure from the 30s?
That kind of is the American way.
Yeah, but why is this character from the 30s? How is he still relevant in the 2000s? And it answers the question beautifully. I don't want to get into it here. I think people should just read the issue. Action Comics 775. Go look for it. And it's because he's an aspiration. He's something we should look towards, something we should be better than. Will we ever get there? Probably not. But it should always be a beacon of hope, something we should look up to. One of the things I like about shows like Star Trek, at least not the darker stuff that they've been doing, but just some of the older stuff, is it always was like this show about this is us at our best. And this is what we should try to be. And will we get there? Probably not. But we should try our best. And that's what we can get to. And that's what Superman is. Okay. And that's what I think what he represents. A lot of people are talking about the imagery. This is very specific. It's from a run by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely called All-Star Superman. And there's some just great moments in that book that really point out. It's really zany. It's very much like 60s Silver Age, like weird shit. But there's like this one panel where this person's basically getting to commit suicide. And he like stops her. And he's like, it's okay. I know. And he just holds her and like, it's like 4 fucking panels and it'll have you in tears. Just one fucking page.
Now, with this Superman legacy, I mean, I would love to see some more of that in a more exploratory space than him just fighting a big bad.
And that's the thing. 2 things to that. Number one, that it's like as much as I did like Cavill as Superman, he had the look, and that cape looked great. The problem it's like, oh, you've got to hide yourself and you have to be willing to let people die and you've got to snap necks and you're dark. And, like even Zack Snyder said, oh, my Batman kills people. It's like, no, then you miss the point. He should be a beacon of hope. It should not be a dark movie. The person who, ironically enough, and I'm not a big J.J. Abrams fan, but he would have almost been perfect for a Superman film just because it would have been overexposed. It would have been bright. It would have been lovely. It would have been like, oh man, like you would have looked up and said, oh, I do believe a man can fly. Kind of kicking back to the Richard Donner film, Yeah. That's what it should be. My one problem I have is we don't need another origin of Superman. It's like the Batman thing. We don't need it again. We know it. We've seen it. We know his legacy. We just so I'm hoping that's not what this is, or if it is, same. It's what Grant Morrison did in All-Star Superman, where it's like literally he tells the origin of Superman in 4 panels and 8 words. Doomed planet, hopeful parents. I forget what it is. It's something like, basically, but it shows like the rocket flying, the Krypton exploding, being found by the Kents and being raised as a boy, and it's done in like 4 panels. And it's like, that's all we need. You can literally do what James Cameron wanted to do with Spider-Man. Show the origin sequence in the opening credits. Okay, moving on. Get into the story. We know Superman. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm going to say my experience of Superman, not being a comic consumer, but being a consumer of the many DC animated movies, is that Superman, in a lot of the stories I have seen, is mostly... he's powerful. He's the go-to guy that the group relies on heavily. Tends to get the group into a lot of trouble because of how naive he is about the thing that he's often going up against.
Yes.
And he ends up being captured a lot or turned into different things a lot or disposed of for a period of time because he ends up being the button that would fix it all. If Superman was just there.
Yeah, I mean, he is OP. It's a problem. It's like, and so you have to like have, again, it's that thing of raising of stakes that we were talking about earlier today. It's like, well, what's bigger than Superman? Okay, Darkseid's bigger than Superman. Darkseid could kill him.
Sure.
So let's do that. You do have to kind of like power him a little bit to kind of make him, the threats actual threats. If not, like you said, laser beam, laser beam, laser beam. Okay, they're all dead. Well,
Yeah.
That's why you don't want them killing people.
I'm very interested in seeing. James Gunn is a great writer. He makes a lot of wonderful choices. I'm interested in seeing what tone he's going to be capturing with Superman Legacy and how this version of Superman.
There's everyone in chat saying it's not going to be an origin story, so that's great. I do believe it's supposed to take earlier in his career, but we'll see.
Superman Legacy. We'll see.
July 11th, 2025.
That's
The next thing is a big premiere HBO television series called
Karki,
Lanterns.
you're not wrong. He's got a
this
great
is a story
rosario
of a
that
couple
people
of
don't
Green Lanterns, John Stewart
enough credit
and
to.
Hal Jordan, and we have a few other lanterns peppered in there. But this is really a terrestrial-based TV show, which is almost like True Detective.
I'm very interested in this.
They have been working on this show for over a decade.
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember back in the original G4 days when they were like, "Yeah, we're trying to do Lethal Weapon." But with the Green Lantern Corps, which is they've been trying to do the buddy cop thing. Which honestly, go for it. I'd love it. Do it.
Yeah, I'm interested. I think that like even from this imagery, you can already get a sense of like what the tone is going to be. I think if they do a good job of the CGI, which is tough.
Yes,
especially if you're
just
going
don't
to make
CGI
it a
the
TV
suit. Don't do a CGI.
Right, don't
suit.
CGI the suit. But if they're going to make it a series, budgets change when you make things a series versus like a blockbuster movie. I like the idea of them being the Earth's protectors, and we're going to see a not detective-y, because that's not really the Lantern.
Well, I mean, I
space.
think you could see a thing. Well, no, you could do a thing where like an alien winds up dead in the desert. Like, okay, who killed this alien?
Sure.
Why is it here? Let's investigate this. Then they go to Kyle Rayner, their boss, the chief of police. Like, hey, Kyle, hey, we got this. He's and he can go, God damn it, Jordan. This is I'm ragging on one of yours. I love Kyle Rayner. He's the best Green Lantern. And go to hell, Josh.
With a couple of Green Lanterns who are space cops watching over Precinct
Space
Earth.
cops.
In it, they
Yes, he did
discover
recently become a Yellow
terrifying
Lantern.
mystery that ties into our larger story of the DCU. Next is a big movie called The Authority.
sweet.
The Authority is a passion project of mine. It's based on the marvelous Wildstorm characters we are now bringing into the DCU.
Who are these people?
Okay, first off, I love that he says marvelous all the time. Like you chose that because he says it a couple times. Like you chose
Is
that
he
word.
taking a dig?
I think so. Yes, I think so. I don't know. Who knows? He's still got Guardians 3 to get released, and that's still directed and written by him. So
who are these people, and why do we need another group?
So the Authority, they're a team from the Wildstorm universe. I don't know how far we really want to get into this. Okay. So before, there used to be a subset of Image Comics called Wildstorm. This is characters like Wildcats and
Thundercats?
not Thundercats. But it was basically Jim Lee's kind of corner of the Image universe. I forget what happened, but I want to say in the 90s, late 90s, basically DC says, hey, Jim Lee, we want to buy all your shit and you can come on over here with us. And he's like, cool, I'll take all the monies in the world. Give him a lot of money, give him a very big title. He's drawing for DC. And now DC has access to this entire Wildstorm catalog, which includes things like The Authority, I'm trying to remember everything off the top of my head. Wildcats. There was another book called Point Blank, yes, but there was another one. But there's a couple of Ed Brubaker books. I don't know why I'm like brain farting right now, but there's a bunch of great Ed Brubaker books that you should also check out as well. The Authority was basically the sort of Justice League of this universe. You have characters like Apollo, who's right there. He's essentially Superman. He's the guy in white.
Is he?
Yeah, he's essentially Superman.
So we always have one.
Oh, and that's the thing.
Because this feels a lot like the
you have,
Eternals, and I don't mean to say that.
No, they're not the Eternals. So you have things like, there's Hawksmoor, there's The Engineer. Planetary was another book that they did over there, which is a great book by Warren Ellis. Check that out too. Jenny Sparks, The Midnighter. Midnighter is essentially Batman. And in this universe, like Apollo and Midnighter are both gay lovers, which is great because you have what if Batman and Superman were gay? Great, give us more.
Great.
My problem with it is like it is essentially their version of the Justice League. It's like, well, you already are in the DC universe. You have the Justice League. I don't know.
Why are we making a film?
It's the adult version because like there's like and I think it was the Mark Millar run. There's one point where they fight a pseudo version of the Avengers. Like it's because it's essentially the Avengers. And like at one point, like one of the characters like, can you smell the alcohol? And these guys are fighting drunk. What kind of heroes do that? And literally, as he says that, I think Apollo like goes right through his head killing him. It says the dangerous kind. You know, these guys, it's adult, very adult, you know, superheroes.
Okay, but
so it's their version probably of The Boys.
Well,
if they do it that way.
No, I was just going to bring that up because we're going to talk about a TV show that's coming out this year. I don't know when the next season of The Boys is coming out, but their spin-off show Gen V is coming out.
Yeah.
The Boys did something in television that people have been trying to do, which is they effortlessly created the gritty superhero world.
Oh yeah.
That is now a very high bar because of like they don't push. They know what they're doing. It's riveting. If this is sort of stepping into that territory as a film, how do you think that holds up against The Boys with like audiences today? Is that too high of a bar to hit? I mean, James Gunn, he did The Suicide Squad.
So all I can speak to is the comics.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I think The Boys TV show I thought the first season was good. I thought the second season was great. I thought the third season was phenomenal. I know you didn't like the ending of the third season, but I thought it was a great shot. But remember,
I didn't like the ending because I was like, you guys could have took a bigger swing, walked out on top, and like.
But even the Boys though, it's like it takes those sort of like those like analog characters, like who's Soldier Boy? Oh, that's just Captain America, like stuff like that.
Is this doing the same thing?
Not initially, I don't think, but it could be. I don't know. All I know is like, look, if I was to compare as a comic, if I was to compare The Authority to The Boys, The Authority predates The Boys by about 10, 15 years. I'd say 10 years probably. I like The Authority a little bit better.
Okay.
I think the comic, The Boys, I think the Boys show is better than The Boys comic. I say this being a Garth Ennis fan. I love Garth Ennis, but I think that the comic book was just being like, look at us being disgusting for disgusting's sake. Yeah. This was an adult take on superheroes. Like if superheroes existed and were like gonna be true heroes, this is probably how they would be. If The Boys are just like, oh, these were in the real world, they would just be gritty assholes.
Which I think The Boys TV show does a better job than The Boys comic book.
Yeah. Yes.
And then. So James Gunn talks about this one as being a passion project of his. Yeah. Very likely, he knows these books, fell in love with them, and wants to bring them into the universe.
Yeah, like it's the thing about The Authority was that at the time it was kind of, they called them like widescreen comics. They made them cinematic. It's Brian Hitch who's doing the art. It's very cinematic, very big. You're talking about like pyramid-sized aliens attacking Earth and all of that. You're talking about like that kind of stuff. And then Mark Millar comes in and like arguably tops what Warren Ellis had just done with Brian Hitch with Ray Kreitlich. Like honestly, both runs are phenomenal. If you get a chance, you should check them out. A few other people jumped in. I think Brubaker did a run. I think Grant Morrison did a run. It's fine. And recently, I think Superman teamed up with The Authority when he headed over to I think he went over, I don't know, Apocalypse. He was fighting Mongol basically, and I think it was on World or whatever. But I'm curious to see. I think that this is them saying, hey, we can be, you like your dark and gritty, here you go. You want your bright and hopeful, here's your Superman. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I'm excited. I like The Authority. And also I have that entire run, so hey, that just means my comics hopefully go up in value.
Well, here's also the thing is this is going to be a group movie. It's got to be an origin story.
Does it?
I mean, well, it's got to be. It's an introduction to the audience.
Yeah.
Whether it's how they came to be, I don't think we need to do that at all. But the audience does have to like this is the thing is, the Eternals attempted.
The Eternals should have been
a limited series. This is going to be a film, and it's interesting that they made film versus making it a TV show.
I honestly, this is going to sound weird. I would have preferred that they announced Planetary, which is another Warren Ellis book with John Cassidy doing the art. That book would make a phenomenal TV show or movie series. Like The Authority is going to be fine and it's fun. Like I love some of the characters. You're like the god of cities, essentially. Who can talk to
cities.
Yeah, I believe it's this guy right up here. Anyway.
He talks to the city.
He basically can talk to the city, and the city lets him know what's going on.
That's great. It's a new power we haven't seen. I love stuff like that.
Some weird stuff, and it's some great stuff. Like Jenny Sparks, she's essentially the spirit of the 20th century. And then she's replaced by I believe Jenny Quantum. I believe for the spirit of the 21st century. And so there's it's really really cool stuff like that. Right. So it's not just a 1-to-1 with the Justice League, but there's a lot of parallels.
Well, they did not have a person that talked to cities. I want to see what that's all
and
about.
will interact with all of our primary DCU characters. The Authority are a group of superheroes who think the world is broken and they want to fix it by any means necessary.
So this Superman guy's going to interact with Superman.
Superheroes.
Maybe.
We're
Possible.
doing a television series called Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost is a story of Paradise Island, usually known as Themyscira, which is the birthplace of Wonder Woman. It's almost like Game of Thrones with Westeros, but with all of the inhabitants of Paradise Island.
I think that there's a lot of like story and drama and social issues and stuff to mine from that experience.
Sure.
You know, we'll see.
The introduction of the DCU's Batman is The Brave and the Bold. The Brave and the Bold is the story of Batman and his actual son, Damian Wayne.
I'm excited about Damian is my favorite Robin.
You and James Gunn, apparently.
Yeah.
That makes me worried. I might have to get up and leave, but that's fine.
Why?
Damian's a little bitch.
He is a little bitch, and he is, first of all, to me, he creates a good foil dynamic with Batman in their partnership.
I don't want that. We already saw that. We see that with.
I don't want it.
Jason Todd. It's like, oh, look, they're being adversarial against. Like they're supposed to be the dynamic duo.
I honestly, dude, I forget about Jason Todd.
Yeah.
I think Jason. Here's my argument for Damian being the best Batman.
Yeah.
Or Robin.
Please. Explain to me why it's better than Tim Drake.
Who's number one?
Tim Drake.
Tim Drake is not number one.
Tim Drake is the best Robin, the number one Robin. Oh, you're talking about like in order of like origin? Like,
yeah.
It goes Dick Grayson.
Dick Grayson. His best form is Nightwing.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's my thing. Is like it's not necessarily that like he is top tier Robin. It's that like everyone else has a better version of who they are.
Yeah.
So
well, that's the thing. It's like I don't know.
And Jason Todd becomes Red Hood.
Yeah.
I think that's the best version of Jason Todd.
I agree, 100%.
Who's Tim Drake become?
Tim Drake becomes Robin. Like literally becomes Red Robin.
Okay.
He becomes Robin. He is best when he is Robin. Like he's literally right now, and literally the comic.
Well, I didn't know about Tim Drake.
Like, Tim Drake. The thing is, like, even Batman will admit Tim Drake is. Everyone has like something about like their Batman or their Robin that makes them better than the other one. Like Nightwing or Dick Grayson is arguably the best acrobat. Physicality wise, he is the best. Jason Todd is probably the most brutalist and probably the most like criminal street minded character. Tim Drake is the best detective.
When does Tim Drake come in?
He's the third. He comes in around the 90s. It's a little. Okay. It's basically after Jason Todd dies, Batman gets brutaler and just is beating the shit. It's called Death in the Family. And after that, he gets meaner and meaner. And Tim Drake's like this guy. He figures out who Batman is. He figures out that he just using his intelligence figures out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. He's like, hey. And he goes to Dick Grayson. He's like, I know you were Robin. You need to go back and be Robin again. Like you need to like get.
He needs help.
And like. Dick's like, dude, I'm Nightwing now, bro. Like, piss off. And basically, Tim Drake's like, okay, I will be that. And like another thing that was really great about him is like, unlike Dick and Jason, who were basically came from families that had both been killed, he had a family. He had a mom and a dad, and he was like, I'm just a street level kid. I'm just a kid. I go to high school, and like he was like, cool, you still figured me out, and you're going to be Robin. And he was always like that. He enjoyed being Robin. He liked being Robin. And then like after that, then he gets kicked out and Damian's now the Robin. It's like great. He's like a little assassin turd. He's just always questioning Batman. Oh, is he going to kill him or not? I don't know. It's like, God, shut up. Honestly, the best version of Damian will be when he gets out of the Robin mantle and becomes his own character.
I think that'll be cool.
I do think
I'm excited about them introducing him into to the universe.
Oh yeah, I mean, my problem is I just think they're doing it too soon because like to get to Damian Wayne, there's
a lot,
so much backstory there. I mean, you're talking about Talia al Ghul, you're talking about like what happened to all those other Robins, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, I am a Tim Drake stan through and through. I mean, you should do a poll right now. A lot of
Tim Drake love.
A lot of because he's the best. It's kind of like Wally West. Like everyone's like, yeah, Barry Allen was the first Flash, but Wally West is the best Flash. Same with Kyle Rayner. Hal Jordan may have been one of the first, but Kyle Rayner's the best Green Lantern. I'm doing that just to
I'm not gonna.
You probably don't jump on. I don't have. But in all seriousness, like most people will agree, and maybe it's because a lot of our audience, it's like that's the Batman or that's the Robin they read. They read that in the '90s, and he had been even his own series that went on for like 100 plus issues or so.
Yeah.
So Robin, I would say Tim Drake had the biggest like run, the most dramatic run, at least as a Robin. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm curious. We'll see how it goes.
I just like, and this is again me coming from more of like the DC animated film universe. Yeah. I like the choices and the changes and the growth that Batman has to take on in dealing with his son, who is a murderer.
Yeah.
I get that Damian himself is a whiny little bitch all of the time.
I will say to that real quick. So right now they're doing an arc called Batman versus Robin, or Robin versus Batman. Mark Waid's writing it. Mark Waid's one of my favorite writers. Mm-hmm. I will say that Mark Waid has made Damian actually kind of humanized him a little bit in the book.
Good.
And one of the things, and kind of going back to that we were talking about earlier, what does this Robin bring to the table, as Damian brings to the table, is that he is the best fighter. Even he could beat Batman in a fight.
Damian, oh yeah,
he straight up can. And we are missing a fifth Robin. That's Stephanie Brown. She was only Robin for like 3 or 4 issues though.
Yeah,
and then basically she gets kicked out of it. But she is considered a Robin. She was spoiler. She was Tim Drake's girlfriend at the time.
Is she the one that is in the Dark Knight Returns?
No, that's Carrie. Carrie Kelly. No.
Is she another Robin?
Yeah, but that's in an alternate future. But Stephanie Brown, a lot of people don't talk about Stephanie Brown.
We don't talk about.
She only went like, but you have to acknowledge that she was a Robin for a bit. She's now a Batgirl, but it's fine.
Oh, okay, good. There's a lot of Batgirls too.
This is based on Grant Morrison's great comic book run. Damian Wayne is my favorite Robin. He's a little assassin who Batman tries to get in line. And so this is the story of the two of them and the beginning of sort of the Bat family in the DCU. Next up is a TV series called Booster Gold. Booster Gold is one of comics' really popular cult heroes. He is a fascinating guy. He's a loser from the future who uses future technology to come back to present day.
Kind of going back to the Creature Commandos thing. Someone's trying to get their 80s comic books like up in value right now.
Superhero story of imposter syndrome on an HBO Max.
I think this is going to be a live action TV show. Yeah. I think people are going to have a lot of fun with this one, especially if it has the same comedic style as like Peacemaker.
If they pull, because it's funny, like people forget, like, because Dan Jurgens, I think, wrote and created the character back in the 80s, and it was about a character from the future who comes back in time to become a superhero, et cetera, et cetera. He really found his voice when he joins the Justice League in, I believe it was the 80s Justice League, when it's like a comedy book. It's funny as hell.
Yeah.
But it's him and Blue Beetle teaming up. Now that's the book I want, or the show I want is.
I mean, that might happen. They've got the Blue Beetle movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but no, that's a different Blue Beetle. That's the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle. I want the Ted Kord Blue Beetle. The two of them together, just like in a car. Hey, driving to there's a crime happening across town. All right, let's drive there. That kind of thing would be phenomenal, trying to get to the scene of the crime before so
this one, I think, and again, I'm going to be speaking things not from the comic space, I'm speaking from the film and TV world space. I think that if this one is done comedically right, it's a really great entry point for audiences, like, because that's sort of like what the strategy is. Hey, we got to get people watching shit.
Well, also you have all of this IP. That's the thing about DC. Unlike Marvel, who had to like sell off a lot of their IP, the X-Men, Spider-Man, FF, it's like, and had to build the empire based on like these B-level. I mean, I hate to say this, but like when they were like, "Oh, Iron Man's gonna be our first hero," it's like, oh, no one knew who Iron Man really was. To be honest, now it's like everyone knows who Captain America, Hulk, Thor, all them. But at the time, like DC owns all their IP. They have it all. They can do whatever they want with it. So it's like, milk it. That some of these B-level characters, a la Peacemaker, can do well. Do it. You know?
Cool. Keep going.
One of my favorite comic book series from last year was Tom King's run on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And so we're going to turn that into a big science fiction epic film. Now,
I know Tom King, from what I read, he's going to be one of the architects of this new DC universe. From what
Supergirl in this story.
I have mixed thoughts on him as a writer. I think he's either one of the best writers you've ever read, or one of the or not incomprehensible, but I think he gets a little like too esoteric. You know what I mean?
What's interesting about what he said about this one is this is specifically a sci-fi action movie.
It's funny. Which
again, to me is like, you're finding other entry points for other types of audiences.
Well, this is great because like the Supergirl TV show essentially just took like Superman arcs and then turned them into Supergirl arcs. This is like, hey, we're making her own character and we're doing our own thing with it.
Nothing's gonna beat the Supergirl movie
with magic. Yeah, that was great.
I love that movie. It was so bad. It does not hold up. No. At all. Oh man.
I have to admit I haven't read this miniseries. It was one of the ones like unfortunately the reviews for the first issue weren't good, and I was just like, I'll just wait until it hits trade at this point. Like,
Does Supergirl kill?
I believe so.
There's been different versions of her.
Yeah, I mean, there's always different versions of Superman. Like sometimes they do, like judge, jury, and executioner. It's like is banishing someone to the Phantom Zone? Is that's killing?
Fucked up.
It's fucked up. You kill him? No, not really, but you kind of are. I don't know.
How can people eat in the Phantom Zone? They just starve to death.
They just fly off in mirrors.
Character who was raised on a chunk of Krypton.
I'm curious to read this interpretation.
Everybody
of Supergirl,
around her perish in some terrible way.
Yeah.
So she's a much more jaded character. And that brings me to Swamp Thing, the last thing we're going to talk about.
And this kind of is like Mike
story.
had kind of brought this up. Like, can Frankenstein, Creature Commandos exist in the same universe? If Swamp Thing can exist in this universe, yes, Creature Commandos can exist in this universe.
Now, Swamp Thing is an interesting figure in the film space.
Yeah.
My friend Derek was Swamp Thing in the TV show that.
Oh, no kidding! The one that was shot in Louisiana.
Yeah, and I have a personal because I listened to.
I heard that show was amazing. It got cut short though.
It did,
and you know why? Tax reasons.
Yes. So I got to have the inside scoop of someone who's like landed this amazing role, a show that's doing very well, and then gets the phone call that like
you need. I
think we're done.
Yep. Oh, you got 13. We're just getting 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I had read that it was because it was part of the DC Universe launch when DC was trying to launch its own streaming service and all of that.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, we're gonna have original content on this, and like turns out someone didn't check a form, and literally it came down like literally someone not checking a form, and they did not get the tax break they were supposed to get, and they're like, oh, we are way over budget by like $10 million. Cancel the show now.
Yeah.
Which is too bad because I've read nothing but great things about that show.
Right. But even so, reading a lot of good things about it, people did not go and watch it afterwards.
Well, the problem was because why should I get invested in a show that I know is being prematurely cut? You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons it's kind of hard nowadays. Like you know, like where do I want to invest in this show if I know it's not going to make it to the end? If it's like, oh, you almost want to wait until like, oh, we got to season 3. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm on board now. I'll watch it all, which then it's like that kind of self-fulfilling prophecy where it's like, if you don't watch it, then it doesn't get an audience, then it gets canceled.
It's hard.